In today's video, we're going to be covering the messiest breakup that's ever taken place on the internet, which is the Dantes and Laura situation. I had no idea who any of these folk were before this situation took place, and so I also had no idea how much of a lying, deceitful, hateful, toxic cesspool the League of Legends community was. I've not been anywhere near anything League of Legends related in my entire life, and after this situation, I'm pretty glad to say that. Because over the past couple months, I've come to find that League of Legends has possibly one of the worst, most toxic fan bases on the internet, which, if you know the internet, is really saying something. The names in this situation are two of the biggest League streamers on the planet right now, Dantes and... oh fuck, I forgot his name. Dantes and Tarzan. So let's get you all up to scratch because there's a lot that's happened here and a lot that I'm itching to get at. So this is Dantes with his, at the time, girlfriend Laura.
She's so much more than a dishwasher. She's my dishwasher. And I love her.
Thanks, Wallet.
What?
As you can see from that clip, they had a substantial amount of chemistry, and because of this, they were loved by pretty much the entire community. I mean, in the comment section of this TikTok, even after this whole thing went down, you can still see people pining over their relationship. And it is admittedly quite a sweet one to watch. You can definitely see why they had so many fans. If you know anything about the internet, how it appears on screen usually is very different to how it is in reality. So the two ended up having a breakup after about 9 months of dating, and Dantes announced this in a tweet that has become quite infamous since. Laura and I broke up. While I could sit here and try for hours to explain the reason why, it all comes down to one simple truth. I'm not ready for a relationship. Now, my biggest takeaway from this tweet is that you should avoid League of Legends players like Dr. Disrespect should avoid play areas. It is the most brain-rotted and ignorant community on an already brain-rotted and ignorant website. League of Legends Twitter might actually be one of the worst places on earth. The funniest argument I've seen by far is people saying it shouldn't have taken you 9 months to figure out whether you wanted to be with her or not, when over here in the real world, at least in the West, marriages have a 50% divorce rate and are most likely to happen like a year or two into the marriage. Also, thinking that 9 months is a really substantial amount of time in a long-term relationship, quote unquote, just goes to show, in my opinion, how many unexperienced 16-year-olds are on League Twitter, thinking that they're giving great life advice. From what I can gather, it's just a bunch of children or adults with the mentality of children. Another one of the most common responses to this was that Dantes fumbled and that he left the perfect girl to play League of Legends. Now, I can definitely understand why, to a normal, average, working member of society, this might be the sort of mentality that you have. But to anyone in the online industry, it makes a lot more sense than it initially appears to, because the relationship didn't end purely on the basis that Dantes wanted to play League of Legends. It's not like it's this meaningless hobby that he has just for fun. From my point of view, it's just as he said in the tweet, he's more focused on his career at the minute than his love life. And when you take into account that a career playing League of Legends probably isn't going to last that long, it makes a lot of sense to see why he would want to lock in now and secure as much money as he can so that his life later on is a lot easier. And because of all that, it also, in my opinion, makes total sense why he can't be in a relationship during that time, because he just won't have the amount of time or effort to make it work. It wouldn't be fair on either of them. It wouldn't be fair on him to have to give up his dream, at least partially, and it wouldn't be fair on her because they wouldn't have as much time with their boyfriend as they might want to. This is a mentality that you actually see quite a lot with men. I mean, I'm sure there are women too, but I think it is more of a I guess, masculine thing. There's a very specific group of men who are just willing to work stupid amount of hours every week, not because they have to, but because they want to. For some, it's an inability to derive any meaning through life without work, and to some, it's just a crippling anxiety about their future. I was definitely one of those people at one point, by the way, and I can say with absolute confidence that there was no chance I could be in a relationship with anyone at that point. I barely had any friends, let alone a girlfriend. And even now, I still do carry a lot of those traits. They don't just disappear like that, but I am finding the balance a lot more healthy now. I mean, I'm literally in Florida for a holiday right now. That's why I'm with fucking Pluto. Anyway, in an ideal world, most people would have seen this, I guess, statement that Dantes put out, and they would have thought, two adults have broken up with each other mutually. It was a completely sensible and fair thing to do, considering the circumstances. Whatever, I don't care. Life goes on. What's for dinner? But shit hit the fan, and things got way too uncomfortable way too quickly. From what I can gather, the escalation sort of began when another streamer called Tarzan playfully tweeted, "So can I come over now?" Which to the untrained eye comes across as a very jokey and, I guess, non-threatening tweet. You know, one that doesn't really elicit a big response. But then Dantes comes out of fucking nowhere and just lays down the brass tacks and stands on business. Because he responds with, "This post showcases exactly why I don't want anything to do with you anymore. No, you're never invited over again. Take care, Tarzan." He says sayonara like the final episode of some shitty anime. I don't know why he talks like this. He does this throughout the entire situation, by the way. He follows up with an entire EPQ about it as well. Now, I'm not Illuminati, so I'm not just going to read this entire thing out, but I will go over the most important bits. He claims that Tarzan uses an alt account to stalk all his friends and exes who he has blocked, and is probably using that alt account to look at this very tweet. He goes on to detail an event in Brazil where Tarzan asked Laura about all the influencers who she and Dantes disliked, and she, thinking that he was asking as a friend with genuine curiosity, responded in good faith. Tarzan, however, was probably only asking to gather information to use against the two of them should they ever fall out. And sure enough, when he and Laura had a disagreement, he went on to message all of those people, including those who he hadn't spoken to in over 6 months, just to shit on her and go on to publicly humiliate her. Supposedly, the only friendship he has that has lasted with Tyler 1 is one where he gossips about him being washed up behind his back. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently Tarzan already had a really terrible reputation in the League of Legends community, and in a community which is already extremely toxic, basically by its nature, to be regarded as overwhelmingly toxic and shitty as a person must be another level of like genuine evil and toxicity that I can barely comprehend. But a lot of people, when this came out, apparently didn't even see it as like a surprise. Apparently his reputation was just that bad. Like there was a lot of sort of like, oh, Tarzan isn't a very good person? What? Ah, I never knew that. He quotes, "Stockpiles information against people, keeps it in his arsenal, and the second things go sour, he uses all of it like it's some kind of ammunition." Anyway, the whole thing is just extremely childish thus far. It's very strange to see, like, actual adults acting this way. Tarzan specifically is 30 fucking years old. Like, what are you doing? And that lays even more true with what happens next, because he comes back with, I guess, a list of complaints that he has against Dantes. I mean, he basically just calls him a dick in return. It's really not that deep. Things Dantes did to me while his friend, titled it like a PowerPoint presentation there, very mature for a 30-year-old man to do. Blamed me for entire Brazil trip. Everyone saying he was playing poorly and we needed to swap roles. I would go out of my way to try and coach him and critique him to improve, but he merely cared more about the public opinion rather than improving. He didn't want your advice on League of Legends. Oh, the horror. Wow, what an absolutely unforgivable piece of shit. Can you fucking believe that? Oh my golly goodness, if my mate wouldn't take my advice when I gave him brilliant tips on League of Legends for the bollocking name of buggery, would I be pissed off? Blackmailed me and put our entire friendship on the line trying to get information when me and his ex-girlfriend had a disagreement. I don't even know what that one really means, but remember it because it's going to be important later. Used me as content for years and ended to be my friend. Anyone with common sense can see this. I mean, surely you were using him for content as well. You're both massive names. It's unfortunately just a pretty common thing in this industry, and I'd imagine the same holds true for League of Legends content as well. And also, if it was obvious to everyone else, then surely it was obvious to you as well. There must have been a reason you were letting it happen. Maybe you didn't mind because it was also benefiting you. So it's extremely shady and snaky to try turning it back retrospectively and making it a negative against him when you were guilty of doing the exact same thing. You're 30 years old, act like a fucking adult, grow up, you fucking child. Watch someone in real life tell me to shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of our team room, and as captain, basically +1'd him. It's funny how you don't, bring up the context behind that, like, what did you do for that to happen? Because if you didn't deserve to be told that, surely you would have just said what happened so that everyone could agree with you and how ridiculous it was. When you leave out the context, it just sort of leaves it open to assumption, and it's not like the action of telling someone to shut the fuck up and get the fuck out is inexcusable no matter what the context is. It really isn't that bad. I may have one of the worst reputations in the League of Legends scene, but I have something that you will never have. Good values, moral, and a heart. It's just one singular moral. Also, I've never known anyone with good values, moral, and a heart to say that they have good values, moral, and a heart. It's the old adage, actions speak louder than words, and from everything I've seen so far, he doesn't really seem to have the best values, and from everything that happens later, it's pretty confirmed that he doesn't really have the best values. At this point, a pretty funny side story happens because Professor Akali just enters the battle out of nowhere. I guess he's another League of Legends player, and he just basically laughs at him. So Tarzan responds with a Discord message from an account that you can't see at all, saying this. And Professor Akali has the nerve to type under your post like he's not a certified creep. A friend of mine went on a date with him a few years back, and she wanted to leave and he wouldn't let her out of the car. Super weird. Okay, alright, I guess that's a thing now. This is all just so dumb and would make such a funny, light-hearted video if the later stuff never happened. Genuinely, so far, it was probably the pettiest internet drama in years. Professor Akali was blocked by Tarzan, so he couldn't reply directly, but he did go on to deny the allegation, which isn't even that bad compared to, most streamers. Tarzan tweeted this as a reply to me, then blocked me so I couldn't reply. But yeah, this never happened. No name of a girl I went on a date with, no name of a friend that DM'd him, just a sad 29-year-old child that has to fight dirty to win because he's always wrong. Honestly, that's probably the most sensible thing we've heard so far. It is a very strange story with absolutely no foundation, and I know there's not really any proof either way. It's just sort of he said, she said, but I'm a lot more inclined to believe Akali. Reason being, there is absolutely nobody right now confirming Tarzan's story, but there are a lot of people confirming that Akali wouldn't do such a thing. If there was maybe just a small minority of people confirming that Akali would do something like that, then it'd be a lot more believable, but I haven't seen one person agree with it. Obviously, that doesn't confirm anything either which way, but either way, this is just it doesn't really matter in the whole stratosphere of this drama. So back to the main plot. Dantes responds with his own Watch Mojo top 10 why the other person is a bad bloke. Dantes makes the shocking and career-ending claim that Tarzan was mean about him in the VOD reviews. Who fucking cares? He then threatened to kill TF-Pad and his parents. Alright, man. What the fuck is going on? He also rebukes the supposed blackmail thing as well, claiming that the situation was that Tarzan was claiming to have a crazy nuke on Laura, and that if they ever fell out later, he would use it to cancel her. Now, I know a lot of people in the industry who sort of do stuff like this and claim that they can cancel someone whenever they want if they have a disagreement. It's just such an internet-brained and silly thing to do or think about. If you've got something that bad, you realistically shouldn't be acting civil with them anyway. I mean, all it really does is affirm to us that you don't actually give a shit about whatever it is that's happening. You just want to see somebody that you don't like fall for your own satisfaction. Doesn't sound very nice, does it? When we got on a call because I wanted to put an end to things, he mentioned that if things escalated, he had a nuke against Laura that he would drop and ruin her. I told him that if he considers me an actual friend, that he would tell me what it was. I said that if you're really good friends with someone and you truly value their part in your life, that you would disclose things like that to them. That's what he considers blackmail. I think you get the idea. So far, it's just been a really petty back and forth. This stupid Twitter drama is honestly putting me to sleep fucking thinking about it. But the bottom line is, and as I'm sure you've all noticed, Laura isn't really involved with any of this because it's not her drama to be involved with. All she's done is be sad that the relationship has ended, which is a completely reasonable and natural reaction to a 9-month relationship ending, especially if you wanted it to work out more than the other person did, or you're the one who got broken up with. It makes sense. It's not that big of a deal. But at this point, Tarzan is fucking pissed. He's livid. He wants his revenge. He wants to destroy everyone and everything because he's fucking sick of people seeing him as the bad guy. He's going insane style. He's posting pictures of nukes on Twitter and huge explosions and really cryptic messages to just forebode and foreshadow something truly terrifying and groveling, something that'll make the entire world bow at his feet and say sorry for calling him a dick when he is. I should mention at this point that there were 4 exes that Dantes had who were briefly mentioned in this whole drama. The whole deal with them is that Dantes would supposedly be a player and shag other girls in their relationships, but sort of, I guess, insist that they have to stay loyal. It's pretty level 2 standard internet fuckboy bullshit. Nothing we haven't seen before. And Tarzan was basically planning to stream, revealing all the information about these 4 girls, their stories, so on and so forth, all in an attempt to make Dantes look bad. So Dantes came out with his own tweet, just kind of addressing his sort of treatment towards women, and admitting that, yes, he is kind of ashamed of the way that he has treated women in the past. I don't think, personally, that Dantes comes across very well in this entire situation, but it's just so overshadowed by what Tarzan ends up doing soon that it doesn't really matter. He kind of looks like a saint at the end of it all. But for some inexplicable reason, Tarzan decides that at this point, it would be a good idea to get the one person who has never been involved in this drama thus far involved in the most dire way possible by leaking the fact that she had an abortion.
Laura, he let her fly back to Germany to get an abortion while he stayed home in Stream League, basically, is a TLDR. And that is the Nuke, basically, just to show his character as a human being.
Now, abortions are deeply private and personal matters. I don't care what side of the debate you sit on, but to violate someone's privacy this directly and this blatantly is a completely pathetic and abhorrent move from anyone. I know big YouTubers with dogs that they've neutered who won't even talk about neutering their dogs because they're scared of the backlash that they might get for admitting something like that. That's why I really do have a deep respect for people who can go on the internet and admit to having an abortion. And it's also why I don't judge people who have had experiences like that who don't go on the internet and talk about it. But what absolutely shouldn't be happening is that information being leaked and made public against said person's will. There is absolutely no excuse for something like that. Whilst editing this video, I actually noticed something rather curious regarding the supposed nuke of a reveal. Do you remember in the tweet that Dantes made? Yes, by the way, I finally figured out how to properly pronounce Dantes. But in the tweet he made where he justified the blackmailing that Tarzan had brought up, he mentions that things escalated, he had a nuke against Laura that he would drop and ruin her. That one night when me and her were having an argument, she talked about some arguments that we had over the course of the relationship that made her view me a bit worse. But that she knew I was always trying to improve myself and get better since it was my first relationship, so she didn't hold it against me. That was his nuke, as can be confirmed by detention and TF Blade. So as it turns out, Tarzan actually has a habitual knack for ridiculous and immature nukes, and I find it interesting that he uses the same terminology for both of them. All this really does is add insane validity to Dantes' side of things, because this was before Tarzan was hinting at the abortion stuff, and the way he refers to all of it lines up exactly with this story. It all just makes him look even worse than he already does. Whilst I'm here, I should probably mention that there was a diss track that got involved at some point in this drama for some reason. I guess this is just more evidence that Tarzan is a sociopath that doesn't actually understand the seriousness of what's happening here.
Yo, Dantes, listen up, it's time to set this straight. You are fake, a snake, can't handle your own weight. Blaming me for Brazil, that's a twisted thrill. While you crumbled under pressure, couldn't get your feel. I tried to coach, tried to guide.
The diss track was written and performed by AI as well, so I really don't know what he was trying to achieve here. Once again, he's 30 years old, so it's all just so embarrassing. It all just goes to show that Tarzan is somebody who doesn't deserve the platform that he has. If he's willing to go this far and cause this much damage without the knowledge or even thought of how this may affect whoever they're talking about and the families of whoever they're talking about, proves that he doesn't deserve his platform. And at his big age of fucking 30 years old, it just makes it even worse. So Laura responded with what is easily the most sensible thing that has been said in this situation so far. Tarzan, you disgusting piece of shit, think it's okay to talk about my abortion that I had and lie about the whole thing. 29-year-old man-child thinks it's okay to talk about a random woman's trauma is so disgusting to me. You deserve nothing in this world for doing that. Did we have disagreements that both of us apologized for? 100%. But for you to go online and talk about that, taking away my right to keep that to myself, shows how much you lack in sympathy. Dragging me and my really traumatic event in your little childish fight with Dantes makes you everything but an adult that understands boundaries and respect. It's honestly refreshing to hear someone act like a fucking adult in this situation. And weirdly enough, it just so happens to be the one person who isn't as involved with League of Legends as the others is. I personally don't think that's a coincidence, but I'll leave it up to you. Like, Tarzan really thought he cooked it. He thought this was his bombshell moment. He was like, oh, you guys, you don't know what's coming. You're not gonna believe this. And it ended up being the worst thing that could have been said for literally everybody involved. No one appreciated it. I can just imagine Tarzan's reaction, sitting back and watching the reaction to what he thought would be the best moment of his career. Like he was seriously building it up like he was about to change the world or something. But this here is probably the worst and most frustrating part of the entire drama, because Laura is getting more hate than both Dantes and Tarzan combined for getting an abortion. People are now labeling her as a child killer. They're saying that she doesn't deserve the right to be Christian or claim that she's Christian. They're saying a bunch of awful, horrible shit that never should have been even considered because it never should have been public in the first place. And you can absolutely see why she chose to keep it private, because this reaction is abhorrent. I don't want this video to be one about abortion, but I do deem it important to just get my opinion on it straight. Funnily enough, my opinions on abortion are what got me out of the liberals getting wrecked phase that I was in when I was like 14 years old. I'm sure you've went through something like that as well, like the majority of us have. For the longest time, I've always thought abortion should be a right and something that should be allowed for everyone. But the fact that so many of these right-wingers, like Ben Shapiro, for example, were so adamant on abortion having to be outlawed, sort of made me rethink my perspective on the entire ideology as a whole. And that was my gateway into the light, I suppose. But the entire reason that Tarzan brought this up was to discredit Dantes and make him look an arsehole for deciding to stay at home and play League of Legends whilst Laura went back to Germany to get said abortion. Now, I know that might sound bad to people like us who aren't in their situations, but this was a decision that the two came to mutually and agreed on between them. And my favorite part, and the best part about all of it, is that, guess what? It's none of our fucking business. So whatever the reasoning or justification behind it is, shouldn't matter at all. They're fucking adults. Let them do what they want. Now, with that being said, Dantes did put out a statement explaining why he made this decision and that he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. I won't go through it. You can read the tweet if you want, but like I said, it doesn't really matter. It shouldn't really matter. All that should really matter is that no one was coerced or forced to do anything, and the two agreed on it as adults, which they did. Dantes and Laura went on stream shortly after all of that went down, so here's a short clip of that. It is pretty difficult to watch, to be honest, but context matters, so there you go.
2 hours after getting it, I completely broke down and I had to go to the emergency because I was just emotionally completely out of it. And Dantes ended his stream earlier so we could call and I could express to him how bad I was feeling. And then my grandma came over and I told my grandma I think I did a mistake. And she told me I'm so sorry for pressuring you. If I would have known, I wouldn't have pressured you into getting it. So it's so unfair to me for such a disgusting human being, a 20-year-old man-child, to go online and lie about my history with abortion. This should have never been public. This is something he was told in private.
Dantes goes on to have a full-on, genuine mental breakdown in this stream. And I'm not just saying that in a quirky way. It's very clear that he genuinely is not in a good place mentally at the minute. And I can't really blame him for that. But I do want to reiterate that he doesn't come across greatly in this drama either.
But the fact that he decides to leak something like that as some kind of truth bomb. The fact that this disgusting fucking piece of shit sits there and talks in front of thousands of people, leaking probably the most traumatic thing that either of us has ever had to go through in front of thousands! When I didn't even talk about it to my closest friends!
I understand that his mind must be absolutely scattered at this point, but there are points in this whole thing where I just don't know how real he's being and how much of it is a character.
Why don't you talk about those things, Tarzan? Why don't you platform those girls? If you truly are one that wants to stand with the victims, as you so claim.
I hope you can see what I mean from that clip. It's what I spoke about earlier when I was talking about him being a little bit weird. It's like he's the Joker or something. It gives the same energy as that really weird video that KSI put out before his fight against Tommy Fury.
You don't want this as much as I do.
You don't need this.
as much as I do.
Hi, it's me in post again because I want to caveat this admittedly rather judgmental section on Dantes with something that he's done I actually really agreed with. So one character I haven't mentioned yet in this drama is a bloke called Hazmat, who just like everyone else here doesn't seem to have a life outside of Twitter. I don't know if he's associated with anybody in this situation, but he seems to love defending Tarzan more than he deserves. Whether it be to simply be contrarian and live up to his name as a Romanian troller, or because he genuinely thinks it, I don't know. But either way, he puts out a really insensitive barrage of tweets trying to downplay the seriousness of the abortion getting leaked by claiming it was talked about publicly beforehand by Laura. He says apparently Laura's abortion was already a public thing. On May 25th, 2024, she talked about it openly on stream, although it lacked information surrounding the abortion. The way she talks about it sounds like it was when she was super young.
I've already gone through an abortion. I was super young when that happened. Like talking about mental health, abortion stuff and stuff like that. I think these are topics that a lot of people don't talk about because they're not normalized, you know?
Laura also mentions that she would never talk about her abortion publicly, while almost 1 month ago it seems like she talked about it.
I'm not gonna talk about it. And he was like, yeah, because you know what? If you talk about it publicly, like people are gonna fuck you up. Like they're gonna bash you. They're gonna meme you. They're gonna like destroy you. And I was like, yeah, I get that. The only time I would talk about it is if I would ever have a child of my own. And even then, I don't know if I would talk about it. These are exactly to the point the words I've told this grown-ass man into his face.
It's important to note there that Laura criticizes Tarzan for talking about the abortion and lying, but perhaps not criticizing him for making it public in the first place. Anyways, it's still an ongoing topic as I am researching it. To Tarzan's reasonable defense, he only mentioned very vague details of it in a framed narrative, probably based on the information he had at the time. He did not mention specifics and it lacked quite some context, the context now shared widely by Laura and Dantes. So TLDR of this thread, Laura talked about her abortion publicly before all of this. She never revealed the father. Tarzan revealed that the father would have been Dantes. Now, I could rebuke these myself, but I actually think that Dantes does a far better job than I ever could. He says, genuinely, go fuck yourself, man. You're not some kind of newscaster or anything. You're a young Eastern European kid willing to do anything for clicks just because your only moral ground that you stand on is sensationalism. If you don't think there's a massive difference between her broadly talking about an abortion that she pretended was years ago because she didn't want it to involve me or anything regarding our relationship, and clearly trying to not relate it to anything she was currently going through just so she could express her pain in front of several hundred people that supported her because it's something that troubles her constantly, versus a man sitting there and revealing the details surrounding it so that it could be used as a weaponized attack in front of tens of thousands of live watchers as well as hundreds of thousands of secondary platforms to put all the eyes on her and harass her and I for it. There's something seriously wrong with you. Not to mention the fact that at the time of releasing it he had absolutely no knowledge whatsoever that she had even broadly discussed the idea of it, and that he knew exactly what he was doing since he sat on the idea of it for weeks. Take some accountability. Not only did you post lies that were later disproven and you never took down your words, but you also sat here, posted this with the intention of defending an indefensible man, and then had the audacity to make somewhat of a public vouch for him. You're nothing more than a leech, a truly horrible, rotten one at that. They have a bit of a back and forth, but I don't really care about that. You can read it yourself if you want. So for as much as I critique Dantes in my initial recording, it would definitely be disingenuous to say that he doesn't do anything that's appreciated. And in a new video he says that he's getting therapy, which I unironically think is a great idea, and I hope it treats him well.
I'm getting therapy. Deep down I always thought that, well, even if I act unhinged online, if I'm normal in real life, why would I ever need that? But the truth is, I'm not normal in real life.
And even in the stream where Tarzan basically leaks all of his private DMs with Dantes, yeah, he comes across as a bit of a knob in those DMs. But then again, it is nothing compared to what Tarzan did, and what Tarzan did was public, so who knows what he gets up to privately. I won't really be too hard on Dantes for it, because at the end of the day, he's 22, and Tarzan, at the end of the day, is 30. I know I keep reiterating that, but it is genuinely so unbelievable to me, a 20-year-old, that someone a full decade older than me is acting in this manner. And on top of that, it's also the age-old thing of like, if everyone's conversations were leaked, would anyone really have a job on Monday? Probably not. I think that leaked DMs should always be treated with a little more sympathy than public ones. You know, everyone deserves a place to vent or say ideas that might be half-baked or just be at their worst in private. And to have those things made public is always just shitty. I also want to add with the whole Dantes acting like the Joker thing, I'm not being coy and I'm not being cute when I say I genuinely have no idea what the mind of a League of Legends player is like. The brain chemistry of a League player is honestly the most foreign place to me ever. Like, I can't even begin to imagine what it's like in there. So I'm not gonna act as though I know 100% if Dantes is being genuine or not. For all I know, this could be 100% natural and this is just how he deals with trauma. Who knows? It's not really that important, but I just wanted to get it out there. I will assuredly say, however, that he definitely needs to take some time off of the internet because the amount of sheer Twitter that this man has been indulging in during the past 2 weeks isn't healthy for any living organism. Twitter is one of those things where every hour you spend on it is likely to remove a year from your life and kill an angel. Tyler One, who, if you remember, was supposedly Tarzan's only remaining public friend, also spoke up against him, so there's that gone, I guess.
Bro, I'll say one thing. Tarzan's an idiot. You can't do that. You can't do that, bro. It's like one thing you don't do ever. That's such a stupid thing to do. You can't ever do that. It's nobody's business but their own.
I mean, maybe they're still friends in private, but definitely not publicly anymore. Now, Tarzan's first response to this whole thing was to make the claim that he is impulsive, and that's why the information got out. I'll read what Laura said first before I respond to that, because it is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Amazing how Tarzan just went live and brought another man on his stream to talk about my abortion and excuse his behavior because he's impulsive. Instead of pretending to have remorse for his actions, he instead said on stream multiple times that it had to be done even without my consent because he was mad at Dantes and then blocked me everywhere. Yeah, I mean, she pretty much says it all there. The excuse of impulsivity is the most incoherent and ridiculous excuse I've ever heard. And it becomes even more fickle when you think about it for 2 fucking seconds. Because if you remember, Tarzan was posting really cryptic messages of fucking nuclear bombs exploding. He had this whole thing planned out. It wasn't impulsivity. It's not as though he just came up with the idea on the stream. He knew he was going to bring it up days in advance, still fucking did it, and then had the audacity to claim that he was impulsive and that's why it got out and that it had to be done. He's not remorseful in the fucking slightest. He doesn't give a shit. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what he pretends to do or say after this. He doesn't give a fucking shit about anyone's well-being. He just wants to come across as less of a monster than people already see him as. The label of man-child that people have continuously been calling him throughout this entire situation couldn't be more fucking correct. And obviously, everyone on the internet who's sane anyway shares this opinion with me. So Tarzan deleted everything and put out a final statement, the anime's finishing move, the apology to end all apologies. But like every modern apology, it looks as though it was written by ChatGPT in about 2 minutes. I want to express my deepest sympathies and apologize to those who have been hurt by my recent actions. Just say Laura's name. Say her fucking name, you piece of shit. He doesn't, by the way. He doesn't mention Laura or Dantes by name throughout this entire apology. Even when he's trying to correct everything and do damage control, he doesn't even have the decency to mention the people he's apologizing to by name. Because he doesn't want to apologize. He doesn't feel remorseful. He doesn't think what he's done is wrong. And at that point, why even release an apology? The whole point of an apology is that you think what you've done is wrong. It's not just to save face. Just fucking leave the internet like a good wee dog and don't say anything ever again. Over the course of my life, I would always remind myself that my anger stemmed from League of Legends and that I was a completely normal individual outside of the game. Despite this, I have let my behavior and anger seep into who I am as a person, and I need to grow to change and apologize for what I've done. I've come to terms with my attitude and I refuse to remain in denial and not become better. At a certain point in time, one must realize that they aren't as untouchable and complete as a human being as they once thought they were. What the fuck are you even talking about? Just apologize to Laura for being a piece of shit? No one cares about your fucking journey of self-discovery. I always hate when people do this in their fucking apologies. Retaliation has always been my kryptonite. If someone did me wrong, I would escalate things far beyond what is normal and act vindictive, petty, and spiteful. He's talking like fucking Vilgax in the climax of some shitty Ben 10 fanfic. Despite my intentions being to showcase someone else in a dark light, I dragged into the mix yet another person into the mix who did not deserve to be a part of it. Their private life should have stayed at that. Ever thought of maybe showing those people the base level of respect of you know, just saying their name. If someone was apologizing to me, not to me, but in a public forum, I would feel pretty fucking insulted if they didn't mention me by name. It really does seem as though he's trying to hide the situation from those who don't know about it, which just baffles me even more because everyone knows about it. Everyone who's reading this tweet knows about the situation. It wouldn't change anything if you just said their name. The only explanation I can think of for him not wanting to mention them is ego. I've always felt the need to make others feel bad if they've hurt me. This is something I'm blah, 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 blah. I'm fucking sick of it. I'm just gonna skip. I'm skipping through it. I'm sorry. You can read the tweet if you want, but I'm skimming through it. I currently do not feel it's right for me to continue making content. You're damn fucking right. Probably the most sensible thing you've ever said in your entire life, my friend. And it's still wildly underbaked. It's not that it's not right for you to continue making content. It's that you don't deserve the platform you have. It's that you should never ever show your face on the internet again as this character that you've created. The only place that we should ever see you again is LinkedIn so that you can actually contribute some fucking value to the world. For that reason, I will be taking some time off to reevaluate my life, past actions and mental, so that when I do come back, I'll be someone worthy of your support. Don't come back. Never come back. And I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that. Stop. Just stop. Don't come back. You've done enough. Also, I'm unable to change my profile picture. Sorry for that. Here's his profile picture for those wondering. I'll be honest, does anybody really believe that he was a completely normal individual outside of League of Legends? Like, that's probably the biggest lie throughout the entire thing. He's completely irresponsible and shouldn't have any influence on other people, which is what this job grants him. That's why he should, in my opinion, reconsider the I'm coming back thing. The whole tweet comes across as more of an apology to his fans and the general community, rather than the people who he's actually hurt. He addresses Laura like she's just collateral damage. There is absolutely no acknowledgement of what he's done or what he should do or anything of the like. To me and everybody else who isn't terminally online, it's very obvious what he's done. He weaponized another human being as if they weren't even a person and used them to attack somebody that he personally disliked for his own personal gain. He doesn't need time off. He needs fucking therapy. And Jesus. He needs therapy and Jesus. And maybe a couple of fucking smacks to the face as well. I just think it's mental that all of this controversy started from what was initially a completely amicable and peaceful breakup. And to top it all off, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, the fucking cum on the titty. It looks as though Dantes and Laura might actually be getting back together. Nothing was ever a ploy for attention. When we broke up, I made the announcement. I was 100% intent on going through with it. It was only after laying down later that night and asking myself if I really wanted to have a life without her, who's always been my biggest supporter, that I came to realize that I just have a lot of unresolved mental issues that led me down self-destructive paths. Anyone that's been watching me for a while now knows that I have a lot of problems, and it was only now, after realizing that I could genuinely lose the love of my life, that I decided enough was enough. The only thing I want is to be a better man, for me, for her, and for us, so that I can not only win back what we had, but also have the concept of us be so, going forward, be much more than what it ever could have been. I don't know, maybe there was a typo there, or maybe I'm just dyslexic. If you don't want to believe me, that's fine, but just remember that I am a person first and content creator second. At the end of the day, I, just like any other man, am just trying to find my way through life. The only difference between me and them is that my struggles are more public. So that's pretty interesting. The catalyst for this whole drama might end up being null and void. Anyways, that's it for this video. Subscribe to the channel. Bye!